Come on in, welcome to my home. Today we are talking about foyers, or entryways, or entry halls, or that area where you come into your house. Now, the reason we're talking about this is because in my dream home, it's a wonderful space, which is going to be really, really nice, but we need to look at the practical side of this. And a lot of people come at entry halls just as a transitional space. It's just a way from getting from the outside of your house to the inside of your house. Well, and that's really true, but the question becomes, what are you actually going to do with that space? Let's think practically. What happens in that space? To do that, I have to think about my space here. And to do that, there's some really weird things. One of the things about my space here is I have actually 2 points of entry into my condo. One is a front door, and the other is this garage door, which is right behind me. And you want to know something? 90% of the people who come to visit me come through that door. Yeah, because the front door actually faces the back. I mean, it's a whole nother issue. Okay, it's a whole big issue. But most people come through that door, so that really is my main access point. And so when I was designing my dream home, I knew that I wanted to make sure that my entryway would be at the front of the house, but it would also encompass coming from the garage so that it would all come into one area. Because I hate the idea of the weird thing to one spot to get your coat, but then as you're leaving, you're going to a whole nother spot to leave. That's annoying. So I want to be able to take off my coat if I'm going to walk the dog and go through the front door, and then also be able to pick up that same coat if I'm going to the garage and going out and be able to get it. I mean, it's pretty practical. That way I have one coat closet for myself, which can then have all of my seasonal coats. Why is that important? Because I live in the Midwest, where we can have every single season in one day. So yeah, having your coats available to you easily, really important. And I also thought about the way that I actually live my life. Now, here's one of the things which is really important. You can do a couple different things with your entryway. One of the cool ones is you can set up your entryway so that it is a hint to what your house is going to be. You can decorate it in such a way that gives you the idea of how your house is going to be decorated. Or you can set up your entryway as if it's a barrier between you and the outside world, so that the outside world gets cleansed from you before you come into the rest of the house. I'm going for that one. My house is entirely designed so that I can leave the outside world behind me and I get cleansed before I go into my house. So then, knowing that, I looked at the practical parts about this. So what did I need? Aside from a front door so that I can actually get in from my porch, the outside, into the entryway. I needed doors from the garages to, get in from there into the entryway. But what do I actually need in an entryway? Well, one of the things that I need is a closet, or maybe 2, depending upon you, your lifestyle, that sort of thing. I opted for 2 closets simply because there was the room. My entryway would be a total of 12 by 16. That's a total of 12 by 16 foot space. However, the closets do take up some of that. And that's important because I would have fairly big closets because, like I said, I live in the Midwest. I might leave in the morning and have it 90 degrees, but by the time I get home, it's 45. It's what we do. Then the other part about this is I want to be able to do things like get mail. Have you ever gotten your mail and then there's a whole bunch of junk mail and you're going through it? I am not one of those people who wants to take the junk mail into my house and then sort through it and dump it. No. My entryway would need to have a spot where I could sort through my junk mail and get rid of it right there. It also need a spot where I could put my change, my keys, those sort of things. So entryway credenza or dresser or something like that to hold that stuff would be important. And yes, I'm one of those people who likes to have things hidden away. So my trash can for my entryway, my keys, where all the chains, that sort of stuff, would have to be in drawers or behind cabinet doors. Okay, so we figured that out. We know that we at least want a cabinet of some kind in my entryway. And I'm not an idiot, so I am going to want to at least sort of semi-check what I look like before I leave the house, so having a mirror probably over that cabinet where I could sort of semi-check myself before I go anywhere. I know, you're finding this hard to believe that I even do look in the mirror. But yeah, so having something like that, which also would mean that I would need light. So I would need light to be able to come, and so when I look in the mirror, I can see myself. However, one of the things to think about when designing an entryway is it's not always daytime outside. If you're one of these people who has these big, huge glass doors, which are absolutely gorgeous, and they face the street, and every time you walk into that area where the glass doors are, you are completely and totally exposed to your street and anybody who's coming up to your house. Not so cool. So no, I do not want big glass doors. I do not want windows in my entryway. My entryway will be dark. In fact, my entryway will probably be really dark, but we'll get to that. What I want in my entryway is I'm going to have that on that cabinet would have to be some sort of, since I'm using I would use a Google Nest doorbell. So there would also be a Google Home Hub or one of those things right there on that on the cabinet, so that way I can see who's at the door before I open it. I can look out, those sort of things. So yes, that would be there. We have to have our light. We've talked about that. But I would also need a place to put on shoes and take off shoes and put boots so that they can drain, so that way I'm not tracking the outside dirt into my house. The entryway needs to be something that can be easily, and I mean easily, cleaned and keep all that outside dirt out. Now, being practical, I am not one of these people who likes to have like a lot of coat hooks. The only time I'd have coat hooks on, actually use them, would be when I was hanging up my coat just to let it dry. Instead of having the coat dry in the closet with the door shut, I could put it on a coat hook, it could dry out in the air, and then I could hang up the coat hook later once it's dry. Being practical, I'm thinking, well, if I'm going to put a wet coat on against a wall with a coat hook, yikes, that might not be so cool. So maybe it would be neat to have some sort of tile feature where I could have pegs, where I could hang my coat on those pegs and it could dry there. So then if I'm going to do that, why not have a bench underneath that so I can take off my shoes, have a tray underneath the bench where I could put boots, shoes, that sort of thing, and all of that wet stuff is on that side. Well, if I'm going to do that also, I need an umbrella stand. Because guess what? It rains. In fact, this very morning, it rained here. So having a spot for my umbrella would be really, really, really nice. So that way, I have one side would be for wet things, shoes, wet coats, umbrellas. The other side would be for my things like keys, wallet, that sort of stuff would be on the other side with that credenza or whatever you want to have over there with the mirror. It separates the two out. Now, one of the things which my mom suggested, which I then sort of nixed, was the fact she's like, well, wouldn't you want a place to put your phone? And I'm like, no, because most people now carry their phones with them. So having a phone charger in the entryway isn't one of the greatest things. Now, would I need some ability to charge something in the future that would be in the entryway? Possibly. Possibly I would need that. But as of right now, the answer is no to that. So I would not have a charger, would not need to have a phone charger or that sort of thing in my entryway. What other things would I want in my entryway? So let's walk through that. If you ever want to figure out what to put in your entryway, take your day and walk through your day. When you are leaving your house, what do? Well, if you have mail, you want to be able to pick up your mail. So yeah, there's a spot for that. You want to be able to grab your keys, your coats, and everything and head out the door. Cool. That'd be if I'm driving somewhere. If I'm walking my dog, I want to have a place to get the chain, the bags I would carry with the dog, maybe possibly a treat, because, maybe we'll get her to behave. So all that would be really nice to have at the entryway. Also, if you are like me and you have a dog who likes to bark at everything and everyone, having a way of closing off your entryway from the rest of your house, thus leaving your dog on the other side, or animal or whatever that could easily escape outside into the world on the other side, that would be really nice. So my entryway is set up with a set of doors which would then close off the entryway to make it its own space, which to me is super important because, my dog can be pretty precocious. Precocious, we'll go with that one. I mean, your entryway is the first spot that people see, but it's your reception area. It's the place where you can greet people without having them come into your house. It's a great place where if you've ordered a pizza, that's where you're going to greet the pizza guy and get your pizza. So that credenza, or that table, is a great place to put that pizza down as you pay for the pizza if you haven't already paid for it. If you receive a package, you can open up your package. So in that credenza, there'd be a great spot for having a knife so that you can open up the package right there and get the cardboard boxes and those sort of things right out into your recycling without it coming into your home. So with all that said, you would then want to have enough light that you could see. So you want accent lighting and task lighting, and then just ambient lighting. The task lighting would be to get all of those things picked up, your keys, all of those things. The task lighting, you want to be able to see. What I would consider accent lighting, as you are coming in, having a night light would be wonderful so that you can see in your area where you come in. If you have an alarm system that you would want to have set up, you would want to be able to get to that alarm system before you get into the house, or at least really close by. I wouldn't necessarily put the alarm system in the entryway, but I would have it very, very close. The other thing to think about with an entryway is, does your entryway need to have access to your laundry room? Because there have been quite a few times where I've come in and I've been out working on the flowers or something, or I've gotten dirty, or we've gone somewhere and done something where I want to be able to change clothes from that. So I am thinking about the fact that I want my entryway to have access to my laundry room. Not necessarily right off the entryway, but it needs to be close. My entry floor needs to be something that is non-slip, because like I said, we have all 4 seasons, so it wants to be something that my slippery, snow-covered shoes wouldn't necessarily be, making the floor slick. But it also needs to be something that I could clean really quickly. So with that in mind, I would probably tile my entryway, simply because the tile would give me everything that I want. I would be able to hang up my coats or my jackets or whatever, especially if it's raining, and have that the water would just cascade off of it onto the tile where I could mop it up. No problem. So that's really simple. I could sweep up dirt really quickly. You will find that I am not a big fan of carpet, like entryway carpets that are supposed to collect dirt and those sort of things. I have one at my doorway now that I just sort of hate, but it's there more out of habit than anything else. In fact, now that I've said this, I probably will remove it. But I want to have it so that I can quickly and easily just sweep that whole area up. And I know my dog well enough to know that she's going to love to run around into the mud and everything. So if she comes in covered in mud, I can hopefully dry her off. So I probably want towels to dry her off if we've been walking in the rain, which lately that's one of the fun things to do. But one of the things you're going to hear lots of people say is you need to think of your entryway as a way of greeting the guests who come in. And I'm like, well, that's great. But if you consider the only thing that you're looking at is the number of people who use it versus the number of times one person uses it, that's really weird. I am not going to set up my entryway so that it caters more towards guests coming in. As I've said before, I rarely ever get people coming over, and I don't expect when I build the house that I'll get lots of people coming over. I myself will use it. It needs to be catered more towards what I would do and how I would use it. So my bench would be at a height which would be comfortable for me. The shoe racks would be in a spot which would be comfortable for me. The umbrella stand, we'd have to talk about that one because I rarely ever carry an umbrella. But I would need to think about it as in what works for me and what can I easily clean up. And this is going to surprise you, but my entryway would probably be black. Yes, solid black. You're asking why? Well, that's the infamous, I want to have it as a way of cleansing, a way of stopping the outside from getting inside. So it would probably be black tile, possibly a matte black tile on the floor, and then shiny black tiles on the walls, maybe even a black subway tile. I would have to look into that, with a nice ceiling mount black light up above. I would even paint the ceiling black. Yes, I am that person. But that way it would feel like you are in a nice, cozier, it would feel like it's coming in to greet you. Almost like you are just walking through the darkness, and then when you walk into the rest of the house, as the rest of the house unfolds to you, it would then be something which would be new and different and not necessarily give you the idea of what the house would be like, but it would definitely be a way of cleansing yourself from that. Now, some of you are asking, well, what about groceries? Okay, and I've talked about this before. Yes, taking the groceries from the car to the kitchen is what some would consider a long trek. I would not. I think that that's a good distance. It wouldn't bother me whatsoever. It would give me a chance to then, change shoes, that sort of thing, as I'm carrying groceries in. But I would have no problem. Now, if I wanted to, which I wouldn't imagine that somebody does, where you unload the groceries onto maybe the bench, and then from the bench you take them on inside the house, you could very easily do that. But everything needs to be a really comfortable thing. Now, if you live with more than one person, that needs to be set up for more than one person. It needs to be set up for the number of people who actually live in the house, or for the people who are constantly visiting the house and you want to include them as part of your family. Your entry needs to be welcoming without being overly welcoming, which for me, since I guess I've been considered a maximalist now, okay, my entryway would be pretty minimalist because I'd want to be able to have space to put things down when I needed to put them down. Like you're in your entryway and you want to put stuff down, but I also want to put them out of the way. I want to hang up my coats. I want to put my shoes away. If I ever carried a briefcase, don't ask. It probably would never happen. But the other thing which could happen is carrying a backpack. I've been known to carry that quite often. So I want a spot in my closet where I could just hang up my backpack so that all of the stuff which pertains to the outside world stays in the entryway, and then everything that I'd want would go into the inside world. And that's where I'd have this. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What is your dream entryway like? I'm sure by now I've shown some pictures of the entryway, because I'm recording this before I edit it, of some of the ideas, but we'll talk more about the decorating of the entryway further. But yes, my entryway would be dark and moody, but what's your entryway? What is your dream entryway like? What ideas would you want to throw into an entryway that I haven't even thought of? Because one of the ones that people have been talking about is, wouldn't you want a fan in your entryway? And the answer is no, and I don't understand why I would want a fan in my entryway, but hey, who knows? I'd like to take this time to thank these people who are helping me with the whole process of building my dream home. Through them, we are going to get through this whole dream home thing, And hopefully soon, if we get enough people, we can build the home of my dreams and I can show you more. You can see it come together. If you are interested in joining me on this journey, go ahead and head on over to my Patreon or become a channel member. Through that, we can get this whole dream home idea going faster and we can talk more about this. And as you can see, my house is set up for fall. On my Patreon, and they're going to get to see the house set up. Yeah, they're going to get the house tour of what it looks like for fall, and I'll also talk about some of the ideas of what I do in my dream home, but you'll see that later on coming up. I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know what you thought, and I hope we get to see you again the next time you stop by.